The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
Welcome back to First Mover. SEC Chair Gary Gensler testified during a House Financial Services Committee hearing focused on SEC oversight and had a fiery exchange with New York Congressman Richie Torres yesterday. Let's take a look.
Suppose I were to purchase a Pokemon card. Would doing so constitute a security transaction?
You could purchase a Pokemon card. I don't know what the context is, but if you're just purchasing a Pokemon card.
If I purchase a Pokemon card, is that a security transaction?
Store, that's not a security.
Okay. If I were to purchase a tokenized Pokemon card on a digital exchange via a blockchain, is that a security transaction?
I'd have to know more.
Okay. So for you, the process of tokenization is what transforms a non-security transaction into a security transaction?
Look. If the investing
I thought you were technology neutral.
If the investing public is anticipating profits based upon the efforts of others and they're exchanging funds, that's the core.
I see my time has expired, so.
All right, joining us now to discuss is Perkins Coie partner and former SEC enforcement lawyer Keith Miller. Keith, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Jen, Emily, and Lawrence. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's great to have you here. Now, that exchange we just listened to, the exchange we just witnessed, is a reaction, I would say, to the recent NFT enforcement actions by the SEC. We're hearing a lot about Pokemon cards and Star Wars collectibles. What did you think of what we saw there? Is this discourse something that you expect to hear more of as we move forward in the lack, I guess, of crypto regulation in the U.S.?
You know, your previous segment talked about how the crypto market is boring. Yesterday's hearing was anything but boring. I think the word I would use to describe the Congressional Committee on Financial Services was frustrating. A lot of the questions that were asked of Chair Gensler, he frankly just failed to answer. So let's just start with, what is the SEC's mission? I want to talk about this, right? The SEC's mission is threefold. One is protecting investors. If you go right to their main website, you'll see this is our mission. 1, protect investors. 2, maintain fair and orderly markets. And 3, facilitate capital formation. Underlying that mission is transparency. Transparency means the ability to listen, understand, and move forward. That's what we're seeing, in my opinion. That's what we're seeing is a lack of leadership on the part of the SEC to listen, understand, and move forward. There's no rulemaking that's occurring in the crypto space. There's a lack of understanding about how the crypto market can function in a regulated market. Let's make it straight. Everyone's agreed that digital assets should be regulated. We want to prevent fraud, but it's trying to understand how to do that. And that's what the frustration was being vented against Chair Gensler yesterday. One congressman asked him, is Bitcoin a security? And unfortunately, he fumbled. He didn't want to say it's not a security. Then finally, when the congressional congressman asked him, well, you said it's not a security. Is it a commodity? Now, again, Chair Gensler of the SEC was a chair of the CFTC, regulates commodities. And he said, well, I guess it really depends on what context. So the problem here, in my opinion, is that there's a lack of transparency, and that's the underlying mission for the SEC. Full disclosure, disclose, and that's the basis of our securities laws.
Do you think we're going to get any regulatory clarity under Chair Gensler? There were a few Congress people who were saying that he should step down.
No, I don't think we're going to get anything. Look, this is politics, right? You know, I think the only way that there's going to be more clarity is through court decisions and legislation. I think on those two axes, I think you're more likely to see more clarification in the courts.
So based on Chair Gensler's testimony yesterday, and of course his actions over the past couple of years here, and he knows crypto. It's not like this is something he's never heard of. It's something he actually taught at MIT. So I'm going to guess that he probably knows crypto a lot more than even a lot of guys on YouTube who scream and shout about buy this or sell that. He also, as you said, was head of the CFTC. What do you think is going on exactly? Do you think that it's a power grab in the sense of he doesn't want to answer these questions? He doesn't want to have this kind of clarity on purpose, or is it because he is waiting for Congress? In other words, what's his motivation? Obviously, we can't get into his head, but seeing it from somebody who's been on the inside, who's seen the day-to-day works of the SEC and now deals with them in another way, what do you think is the motivation behind Chair Gensler's approach to crypto at this moment?
Yeah, I think it goes back, there's a void of regulation regarding digital assets. And as a result, he believes that someone needs to regulate those. And as a result, he has, in my opinion, he has fit crypto assets into this definition, 1940 definition of investment contract, and is trying to be the regulator for digital assets. Now, during the hearing, one of the congressmen asked him about, and this is an argument that's being advanced in court, the major questions doctrine. And that is, does the SEC have authority over important economic issues that impact the United States? Like ESG, for example, that I think was the area that was explored, as well as crypto. That's being advanced. So right now, since there's this void, the SEC has stepped in. In a lot of these cases, look, rightly so, there's fraud going on, right? And they're using these coins, right, as investment opportunities. Okay, not just as investment opportunities, but investment opportunities where you're relying on management's abilities to increase the price of the token or package it with a number of other tokens and sell them. So rightly so, in a lot of these cases, they need regulation and they are securities. But in a lot of other situations, it is ambiguous whether they are securities. And the SEC has said, I'm going to try to grab this area, digital assets in general, and regulate them. So like I said, until the courts step in and say, no, you don't have authority in this area under these facts and circumstances, or legislation comes through, I think you're going to see a continuation of this.
I mean, he seems to think that there is regulatory clarity, though, to be sure. In everything that he said before, it's that, hey, these 1940s law, the 1940 Howey test and everything is perfectly fine by us. This is exactly what we need. We don't need any extra legislation. We're the regulator here. So do you think that this is essentially a power grab? I mean, is this sort of like has nothing to do necessarily with Gensler's dislike of crypto, although there are some characters to be sure, and I have a list somewhere of people I think are distasteful in crypto, but nonetheless, that it's basically a power grab because he's like, well, you know what? I know this space. I know it better than anybody else. Almost an arrogance, if you will. I should be in charge of it.
Yeah, I think part of that is increasing the SEC's ability to regulate digital assets. I think that's the ultimate goal here. Whether that occurs, I think belongs to Congress to make that determination, not to the SEC. And I think that's what you're seeing in court, which is, a number of the court cases are questioning, does the SEC have the ability to regulate this area? I mean, part of the problem also is back to transparency, right? The lack of transparency. When people go and meet with the SEC, they ask them, okay, how do I do this? You want me to register these tokens as crypto assets, securities assets. How do I go and do that? Show me on Form 10 how I can answer these questions because it can't be answered. And if it can't be answered, how can I comply with your regulations? And there's...
Oh, Emily, we hear Emily there. Go on.
There's that lack of communication, listening, and trying to solve the problem here.
You know, something else we didn't get any clarity on during yesterday's testimony was the spot Bitcoin ETF. Everyone is waiting for the spot Bitcoin ETF as a catalyst for the crypto markets. Chair Gensler refused to say if they would approve this. Do you think that we're going to get a spot Bitcoin ETF, just given some of the discourse we've seen around that? Of course, BlackRock, the biggest asset manager in the world, has applied. What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, it's interesting. Congress sent a letter on the 26th to Chair Gensler identifying this as a major issue for them, right? And citing the Grayscale Circuit Court case that came out where the court held that the SEC was acting arbitrary and capricious. Okay, and so there is pressure being put on Chair Gensler to do something in this space. I guess it's a wait and see. I have no predictions on what's going to happen, but there is a lot of pressure, I can tell you, from Congress to have the SEC treat everyone fairly.
Nonetheless, does the fact that you have BlackRock, it's the largest asset manager in the world, involved in this, does it change what the look? The reality is, laws aren't just it's not everybody's treated equally. We know this. I mean, this is anybody who's been to court knows that. But it's the myth aside. Do you think that having BlackRock involved changes how things are done? Does it change Chair Gensler's view?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to change this view, but as more traditional financial institutions get into the market, there's going to be more pressure on the SEC to authorize one of these Bitcoin ETFs. Again, the Circuit Court said, how can you authorize a Bitcoin futures ETF, but not a Bitcoin spot ETF? It makes no sense. Articulate why that's occurring here. Otherwise, it's arbitrary and capricious conduct.
Keith, thanks so much for joining us this morning and shining some light on Chair Gensler's testimony yesterday.